Would you be the jerk for not going to your girlfriend's son's funeral? We're gonna find out, but first, am I the jerk for making my ex a birthday cake, even though his girlfriend told me she had already ordered one? I'm an amateur baker, and I like to make cakes for people for their birthdays. My ex doesn't like sweet stuff, but our kids like helping me make a cake for him, so I normally make one for him anyway for their sakes. This year, his girlfriend planned a party for him, and she told me that she had already ordered him a cake, so I didn't need to make one. I told her that was fine, but my daughter kept asking me when we would make her dad's cake, and was upset when I said we wouldn't, because she assumed that I didn't like my ex, and that's why I wouldn't make him one. Since the cake has always been more for the kids than for my ex, I decided to just make him a small one since it's not like he eats cake anyway, and I don't want my kids to think I ever dislike their dad. I told his girlfriend beforehand that I was going to make a small cake, and she told me not to, and that I couldn't bring it to the party. I told her I had to bring it to the party as that's when the kids would give him his gifts. I offered to come early and give it to him before the other guests arrived, and then they could put it away and nobody else would know about my cake. But she didn't agree with me and repeatedly told me not to bring it. I did take it with me in the end. And now she keeps complaining to mutual friends that I did it on purpose to ruin the party and calling me weird for making him a cake after I was told not to. Am I the jerk? Personally, I think not the jerk. I think it was pretty clear that this was more for the kids and from the kids than it ever was OP, clinging to some reunion hope or something like that. Also, hi, I'm Steven, and if you enjoy hard-hitting, tough-to-answer Am I the Jerk Here stories, why not hit that subscribe button down below? That said, our next story is Am I the Jerk for leaving my girlfriend stranded when she chose to ignore me? I, 27, went to a pumpkin patch with my girlfriend, 22, and a bunch of her friends. I was told it was a couples thing, but I was the only guy there. That's fine, I'm okay with her friends. I'm past the whole cutesy date thing, but I like making her happy. But then they all start ignoring me. Every time I try to join the conversation or spend time with my girlfriend, I got frozen out, like I was intruding. I asked her if she wanted to go do the corn maze with me, and it was like I was some creepy guy at a bar. They all had to come along, like I was trying to separate her. I totally was, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Anyways, they all decided to split up in the maze, and my girlfriend went with them. Screw this noise, I could go catch the Seahawks game if I boogied. So I texted her that she had 5 minutes to respond to me, or I was going back to town to watch the game, and she could get a ride back with her friends. I was literally watching the second quarter before she responded. It took her that long to notice that I was gone. She said her friend would have to drive really far out of her way to drop her off, and that I should come get her. I was definitely over the limit, and I told her to get an Uber and I would pay for it. She said never mind and spent the night at her place instead. I just woke up to about 50 texts from her and her friends calling me a jerk for leaving without telling anyone. I did tell her, she just chose to ignore me. I'm kind of pissed that I wasted all that gas and time and we never even got to actually spend time together. I'm upset with her and her BS friends. Am I the jerk? I don't think OP's the jerk here, and I think it's a little concerning that the girlfriend can't see or understand what exactly they did to OP. I feel like OP was almost being treated like a comfort toy, like something to be there just because they want them to be there, or it might make them more comfortable to have them around. But that's it, they just want them to be there. They don't want to interact with them, they don't want to talk to them, do anything with them. They just want them there. Am I the jerk for not letting the mother of a disabled child in our parenting group? I'm in a group for disabled parents. The group's not for the parents of disabled children, it's for parents who have disabilities. While many of our members have a child or children with disabilities, that's not why they are in the group. The purpose of the group is to have a support network of other parents with disabilities, free of the stigma and condensation disabled people with children so often face. Last week, a woman messaged our group about joining, and we gave her the information for our next meetup. At the meetup, she arrived with her son, who was in a wheelchair. He was a very sweet boy, and he played well with the other kids. The mother sat on her phone for most of the meetup and didn't participate much in our discussion topic. During one of our attempts to include her in the conversation, she did mention that she's not disabled in any way. I mentioned that this group is for disabled parents, and she responded that her son is disabled. That's not really relevant. we moved on, but at the end of the meetup, we told her that she couldn't be a member of the group because it's a support group for parents with disabilities, and she isn't disabled. She was very offended and kept talking about her son. One of the other members explained that this group isn't for the kids, it's for the parents. There are play groups for disabled kids, but we're not that. Yes, our meetups are child-friendly, but that's for logistic reasons, because childcare is expensive. This group is our safe space, and she's intruding on it. She told us we were hypocritical C words for excluding her son and left very upset. We feel bad, but also this isn't a play group, it's a support group. Were we unfair? I think this is one of those situations where it's awkward and it feels bad because it's kind of understandable why they would be confused and why maybe they would feel like they should be accepted here, but I also don't think there's any shame in turning them down because it's so clearly just not what she's in it for, let alone the fact that they didn't hardly participate. Am I the jerk for canceling a wedding gift when the wedding was canceled? My husband's sister was supposed to be married in September. I chose an item from the registry, but the exact item she added had a weird detail. She had explicitly mentioned previously needing option A, but on the registry she accidentally listed option B. So I asked her to make sure I got what she needed, so she knew exactly what I was planning to gift. Sadly, they've now broken up. The gift hadn't shipped yet anyway, so I canceled it. This past week, she reached out to me about it. Since she knew I was purchasing it and we live far away, she was concerned that it had been delivered but that someone had stolen it. When I explained that I'd canceled it, she was pretty upset. My mother-in-law has now reached out to us about it and feels that I was unkind to cancel the order. She feels that since my sister-in-law is clearly going through a difficult time and the holidays are approaching, it would have been more appropriate to let the gift reach her anyway. Obviously, these are unfortunate circumstances, but this was a substantial gift, $700, and pretty well above the threshold of what I'd normally spend for a typical holiday gift. Before it comes up, I'll mention short and sweet that my husband is in the military and currently deployed, so that's why he isn't a big piece in this puzzle, and I'm soloing this awkward adventure. It's really kind of a weird situation, and in like a weird way, maybe they could take it as like disapproval or disappointment or not ever having cared or something. But this was all about giving them a gift to celebrate their new marriage, right? Probably a gift that revolves around them moving in together or starting a life together. I just can't blame them for pulling back on a $700 gift when the reason for gifting it was canceled. Otherwise, catch me in my grifting business of being engaged, getting close to the wedding day, and then canceling last second. Thanks for the gifts. Am I the jerk for not attending my parents' anniversary dinner in order to tend to my wife? I'll be honest and say that this dilemma has put me in a bind, as I'm a very family-oriented person, and this situation deals with both ends of my family. Yesterday was my 28-year-old female parents' 25th wedding anniversary, and because it's such a big year for them, they had planned a special dinner at a very nice restaurant and invited everyone in the family, including my wife, 27, and I about a month in advance. Initially, despite my wife just giving birth to our twins a month before the invite, we decided that we would just get a babysitter so that we could attend. However, my wife's mother passed this past Tuesday, and although we knew that the cancer was making her very ill and that this day would soon come, my mother-in-law's death still shook my wife's world. It was just her and her mom growing up, and they were the closest you could get. So it's safe to say that my wife has had one heck of a week, dealing with her mother's passing, making arrangements, and raising and nursing 2 infants. So on Thursday, I'd informed my parents of the unfortunate tragedy and told them how hard my wife was taking it. And I apologized and told them that I didn't think we could make it because my wife just didn't have it in her to go out. At this point, my wife couldn't even open her eyes without crying. They did the usual, "Aw, we wish you could both be here," but assured me that they understood and wished my wife healing. I went to drop off their gift Friday morning, and nothing but well wishes were said to me when I went. However, yesterday night, I received 3 voicemails from my mom crying, saying how she couldn't believe that I chose my wife over them and how she was disappointed, and that if that was the case, then she didn't want to be in the lives of mine, my wives, or our kids. This shocked me in all aspects, and I tried getting a better understanding of what was going on, but whenever I tried to call my parents, I was met with hostility and negative comments. I love my parents, but I love my wife more. My wife is my other half, and she needed me. To me, staying with my wife and caring for our children was the right call in that situation. Was I wrong to have assumed that that was the right thing to do? I think OP's not the jerk. I think as wonderful as it would have been to have been there for your parents' 25th wedding anniversary, sometimes there's things that are just bigger than having a nice night out to celebrate. OP's wife was in a terrible situation, and not only that, but had a lot of responsibility trying to work with 2 infants. They shouldn't feel bad or guilted at all, and let's be real, it was the parents' anniversary. Whether or not OP could make it, it shouldn't have ruined their anniversary. Am I the jerk for not paying for a competition trip? I, 30 female, am married to my husband Joey, 34. We both have daughters from previous relationships. My daughter's name is Haley, 10, and his daughter's name is Jenna, 11. Both of our daughters are cheerleaders for different teams. We recently just had their competition where the winners of first and second place go to compete in Disney. I've been saving all year since Haley's team is really competitive. Joey didn't save for it because Jenna's on a smaller town team that's not very competitive. Haley's team unfortunately did not win their competition this year. Jenna's team did win theirs. Haley, my husband, and I were all proud of her and congratulated her. Later that night, my husband asked me about finances for the Florida trip. We've always kept finances for the girls separate, as I pay for Haley and he pays for Jenna. I explained that since Haley's team didn't win, I figured her and I could go do something instead with the money I saved for Florida. Haley doesn't know this was my plan yet. My husband thinks I'm being selfish and a jerk because Jenna's team did win, and we should use that same money for her to go. I think Haley could use a pick-me-up. I know people might ask about Jenna's mother, and she's not able to help financially for Jenna to go. We've already spoken to her. Also, if any of the girls on the team cannot go to Florida, then the team has to forfeit. The team might do some fundraising, but the expense will be on the parents. Am I the jerk? I think it would really be nice to try to find some kind of compromise, but overall, I think OP's not the jerk, but it might cause some ripples in their whole dynamic in their relationship. I wish them the best, but from the get-go, considering they kept everything private, OP planned, the husband didn't. At the end of the day, it's not their fault whether they do or don't pay. Am I the jerk for canceling a credit card my mom used? My mother opened an account for me when I was 14. She had full access to it, and I've been saving up for around 4 years now. I tutor kids in primary, so I don't make much, but I still saved up as much as I could. My parents wouldn't let me get a real job because they're very conservative about girls working. Heck, I didn't even get a phone till I turned 18. It's not like I couldn't buy one. I had the money to, but in fear of my parents, I never did. Saying that, I couldn't really tell how much money I had in my account unless I physically went to the bank or asked my mom, who would just wave me off saying money doesn't matter and that it's very little. Recently, and I mean like literally in September, I got my first ever phone for my birthday. And they were reluctant about it too, but I'm starting university next year, so I need one, so they had no choice either. I downloaded the app for my account to track my balance and stuff when I saw I only had $150 inside. It made no sense to me because I'd been saving for 4 years. And I never requested a card from the bank because my parents said I wouldn't need one, so I never used any money either. I got a full bank statement and found out I originally had around $2,000 saved up. I called the bank saying I had some suspicious activity on my account, and they looked into it. They told me those transactions were from my card, even though I never had one, and that all transactions were fine. I told my mother about it, and she just waved me off, saying she borrowed some cash from time to time. I told her it wasn't her money and that it was hard-earned money for me. She gave me a lecture about how she paid for my fees so I could be smart enough to even tutor kids, and that she let me tutor in the house so that cost money. When I told my dad about it, he said to think of it as parenting fees. I was beyond furious, so I canceled my card and called the bank to cut off access to my bank account for my parents. They couldn't see my balance or even spend my money. It didn't even matter at that point because I had less than $200 in my account. A week goes by, and my mother one day comes up to my room fuming, telling me how my card got declined when she was at the store and that it was embarrassing for her and that someone nearly called the cops on her because they thought it was a stolen card. I told her she should have been arrested for using up my money and that I don't care if she got humiliated. She told my father, and now they're threatening to kick me out. I get that I'm 18, but I can't move out with like $100 in pocket. If I had my original amount of money, I'd gladly do it. I told them they had to cough up my money or I wasn't leaving. Instead, they called a family meeting with all of my relatives just to call me out and say how selfish I was for counting every dime and that money ought to be shared or some crap. Am I the jerk? OP went and worked for that money, they spent everything, and then they try to classify it as some parent tax. Hey, sorry, we spent all of your savings just all casual like. Just call that a parent tax and don't get mad at us, okay, or else we'll kick you out. Sounds like some real Parents of the Year territory. OP's definitely not the jerk. Am I the jerk for misleading my snooping stepmom? For context, me, 16-year-old female, and my stepmom, 48-year-old female, do not get along and probably never will. My mom and dad broke up when I was 2, and my dad met my stepmom when I was 9. My stepmom, who we'll call M, never really tried to get along with me, and no, my 9-year-old brain just told me that I shouldn't try and get along with her. She would ignore me and make passive-aggressive comments about me and my sister coming over for weekends, which eventually caused my sister to stop going. That and some mocking of my sister's anorexia. Back to the point, during COVID times, my dad convinced me to stay for a week, in which me and my stepmom seemed to be bonding, so much so that I didn't think twice about typing in my password when she was next to me. After that, I would leave my phone to go to the toilet or grab a snack and open my phone to find my messages, Google history, or social media open because she never thought to close the apps. This started to piss me off because I gave my trust to her and thought that we were getting along. It all escalated to her looking at very private talks, which included me talking about my sexuality, I hadn't come out yet, and talks about my mental struggles. It all tipped me over the edge, so I decided to figure out a plan to get her to admit to what she'd been doing, because if I told my dad without proof, he wouldn't believe me. I would leave my phone open on Google with very scandalous searches, such as how to tell your stepmother that your dad is cheating, how to shoplift condoms, how to cover up tattoos with concealer, etc. But the one that caught my stepmother's attention was ending pregnancy clinics near me. She sat me down the next day and screamed at me that she knew I was pregnant and called me promiscuous. This caused me to yell back, and when my dad got involved, I admitted to everything. My stepmom cried and screamed that I tricked her and that I was an ungrateful sinner. My dad just looked disappointed and told me to call my mom to pick me up. I thought I was in the right, but my dad's reaction has me thinking otherwise. Am I the jerk? I definitely think OP's not the jerk, and honestly, I think it's kind of sad that they felt the need to go to such lengths because they knew that their own father would not believe them. I think this stepmother has such a firm grip over the father. I just hope it doesn't damage OP's relationship with their dad. Am I the jerk because I baked my own birthday cake after my wife bought one? For my 32-year-old male birthday, I always like one specific kind of cake, a chocolate-covered cherry cake. My mom or dad always made it for me since it wasn't one of the available flavors at any bakeries or stores near me when we grew up. When I moved away, I started to make it myself. I've been married to my wife just under a year, but we've been together for 6 years, so she knows all about this cake. During that time, we've either baked it together, my parents made it, or I've made it on my own. I've never asked or expected her to do it. Before my birthday this year, my wife asked me what kind of cake I wanted. Same kind as always, but she told me she didn't feel like baking. I told her she didn't need to worry about baking it because I can just do it myself. She asked me a second time, and I gave her the same answer. The day before my birthday, I get home from work and have all the ingredients to make my cake. I go get something out of the fridge, and there's a pair of cheesecakes in there with "Happy Birthday" written between them both. I asked my wife about it, and she said that those were the cakes for my party the next day. And she thought about switching things up this year since everyone loves cheesecake. I don't hate it, but she gets cheesecakes at least once a month. I only ever have the cherry cake on my birthday. I told her I appreciate it and they look good, but I really want the cake I like, so I was going to make mine and we'll just let everyone have a choice of what cake they want. She got pissed off and yelled that I ruined her attempt to make things easier on us by not having to bake and bringing cake that everyone would love. It's been 2 days since the party, and she was cold at the party and is still acting cold. Usually I move mountains in heaven to give her the things she wants on her birthday and celebrate how she wants. I just wanted one specific cake for mine. Am I the jerk? One thing I definitely believe in is that you should have the cake that you want on your birthday. Even if you don't necessarily want a cake, you want some kind of alternative, I think you should be allowed to have that. It's just really weird that she's like shaming you for making your own cake. I think the truth is she just rather would have cheesecake. And she's doing this weird shaming thing like, oh, why would you work for your cake? Why do you have to bake it? And try to make it this big deal because they just want to have an excuse to go get some more cheesecake. I think OP's definitely not the jerk. Am I the jerk for telling my husband to not come to Thanksgiving? I'm 33-year-old female, husband is the same age. He loathes Thanksgiving. He's a picky eater and doesn't like any of the options served except turkey, but even then he insists that my family doesn't cook it right. He's no contact with his side of the family except for his brothers, so him going to see his family is not an option. My sister recently moved closer, so this year Thanksgiving is being held at her new house. This is the only reason that the holiday came up this early. I was showing him pictures of the house from the old Zillow listing and mentioned that I didn't want to overwhelm her by visiting so early and moving in, and that I'd just wait to see it for real at Thanksgiving. My husband grumbled something about having to attend and talk with my family. He's barely tolerant of my extended family. He doesn't like their conversation topics, saying they all talk about themselves, they only talk about old people things, they say the same things every year. As far as I know, they've never said anything rude to him personally, but he still isn't crazy about my side, and will just kind of hang out and talk to my dad or brother or play with my nieces and nephews. Even if he did have a good conversation with my dad or played with my nephews, he'll still complain about having to see people he doesn't care about and see all the gross food we all eat. It's so difficult to listen to year after year. After he complained for a bit, I told him to just not come for Thanksgiving if he hates it that much. He sees all the members of my family that he likes for Christmas anyway. He looked offended at my suggestion and asked if I didn't want his company. I told him I love him being around, but not when he's not having fun and is going to complain at the end. He said I hurt his feelings to even suggest that he not come with me to something he's invited to. I told him that if he's not having fun at an event, that he has no obligation to attend. He doesn't have to come. He still insists that he's hurt and that he thinks now that I don't want him there. Am I the jerk? I really can't blame OP because if this has turned into a yearly occurrence of try to make it through this event and then afterwards deal with nothing but constant exhaustion and complaints and how they think things are so gross and tiresome and boring or whatever. At some point you're just like, I want to have a good time with family. Spare me from all of this stuff. I think it does get to the point where you can't even enjoy it yourself because there's a whole back half of just total exhaustion coming immediately afterwards. Am I the jerk for overruling my sister by approving my nephew's outfit for my wedding? My fiance, male 27, and I, female 27, are getting married in early April. We're planning a big wedding with the help of both of our parents' financing. We invited all of our friends and family, including our siblings and their kids. My fiance and I are very excited for our wedding. When it comes to the dress code, me and my fiance are very laid back. We just want people to dress up in either a suit, dress, or something else fancy. We couldn't care less about the color or design and actually encourage our guests to dress creatively, colorfully, or over the top. Me and my fiance are both creative people. I'm an art teacher and he works in advertising. We want people to express themselves, and while we're okay with traditional color wedding outfits, we only want them being worn if it's truly something our guests like. I have many siblings and many nieces and nephews. My oldest sister and her husband, female 40 and male 40, have 6 kids. I still live close to all of my siblings, so me and my fiance have a close relationship with them and know that they're excited for our wedding. My 13-year-old nephew is a good kid, has great grades, and is the athlete of the family. As with most middle school boys, dressing up in a suit isn't exactly his favorite thing to do. And about a month ago, my sister called telling me he was giving them issues when suit shopping. I sat down with him and had a talk to see if everything was okay. He said he didn't like anything he saw, and I told him to ask his friends for advice. About a week after, I got a text from my nephew asking what he thought of his outfit idea. He wanted to go with a sports theme. He wanted to wear a normal dress shirt and pants, but for his blazer, have his favorite NFL team on it, a lacrosse tie and baseball cufflinks. He found all of this online and sent links. He told us his mom said no and then asked my opinion on it. I showed it to my fiance and we both agreed it was acceptable and we'd love to see him in it if that's what made him happy. A few hours later, I got a call from my sister asking why I would approve it after she said no, and complain about how the outfit could reflect on her and how my nephew needed to learn proper wedding attire. I asked her and my nephew out to lunch the next day so we could settle it out. We went out to lunch and my nephew and sister were explaining how his friends recommended it and how he wanted to express his love for sports. After explaining to him that this isn't normal wedding attire, but fiance and I wanted people to be creative, my sister agreed to buy it and just got all the stuff in the mail, and he loves it. My sister's still upset at me for trying to overrule her parenting, and when talking to one of our other siblings, male 38, he agreed with her that I overstepped my boundaries. Fiance and I are just happy nephew found a nice outfit he likes. Am I the jerk? People are definitely saying in the comments that OP is the jerk. Maybe because they're thinking about, oh, well, the mom's gonna have to go and pay for all of this. Or the mom said no, therefore they should just straight up say no because it's parent shopping. But to me, I see this as their event. This is their wedding where they said they want people to go creative. They came to them and said, hey, would this outfit be acceptable? My mom said no. If they said yes, that outfit would be acceptable, why does that make them the jerk? I'm sorry that it puts more burden on the mom, but OP's merely stating that it would be acceptable at their wedding. Even if the mom has to turn it down because of monetary issues, I don't think that makes OP the jerk. Am I the jerk for not going to my girlfriend's son's funeral? I, 28-year-old male, have been dating my girlfriend, 30-year-old female, for 2 months. I think we had a good relationship. She has a son, 11-year-old male. My girlfriend and I were good friends for a few years. We met through mutual friends, so I haven't spent time with her alone until 5 months ago. I knew she had a son because she's posted about him on Facebook a few times. He has some sort of liver condition and was awaiting a liver transplant. It's just him and his mom. I don't know much about him as my girlfriend's very reserved talking about her son. I have a little sister, 26-year-old female. I've always been closer to her than other siblings, considering we're only a few years apart. When she was 11, we were fighting at school and she ended up fainting. She had to stay in the hospital for a few days to have tests done, and she ended up being diagnosed with diabetes, not related to her death. I think it changed the dynamic of our relationship a lot, because she was in the hospital a lot more than other kids. At the start of September, my girlfriend's son started getting sicker, and it was the first time she ever opened up to me about his health conditions. In early October, my sister got into an accident. It was very sudden, and because she still lives near my parents, they were heartbroken, and they don't have any children apart from my sister and I, so I went to help them. I grew up in Australia, and my sister and my family still live there. I live in America currently. For the funeral and to console my mom and dad, I decided to stay there for 10 days to help plan the funeral. On my second day there, I got a call from my girlfriend. She said that her son had passed away during the night. I tried to help her the best I could, even though I was already sad about the death of my sister. She said she wanted the funeral to be done soon and that it would happen on the 6th day of my 10-day trip. My sister's funeral was on the 8th, and I wasn't going to take 2 flights to there and 2 flights back in less than 2 days to go to both. My girlfriend got really upset and said that I didn't care about her son, and I was upset at her too because I had just lost my sister. She told me that her son thought of me like a dad and I'd never met him, so I told her I didn't think of him like a son. She hung up angrily and we haven't spoken since. I'll admit I was harsh telling her, and a grieving mother didn't deserve that, However, I don't think I was wrong to push the idea of me being this kid's dad. All my mutual friends think I'm the jerk for not going, and that I should have told her later, but she knows I've never met her son. And I wouldn't ditch my sister's funeral to go to her son's. My friends, though, think I did the right thing, and I wasn't obligated to go to his funeral. I don't know what I should have done. I'm glad I went to my sister's funeral, but I feel bad for how I told my girlfriend, as her son's never had a father figure in his life. First of all, my condolences to OP, and overall, this is a really tough situation. I think there was some weird emotional manipulation going on here where she tried to attach that dad label to OP without really having a good reason for it. It might seem harsh, but it might be the kind of thing that honestly they just needed to hear. Whether this relationship can recover or not, I'm not sure, but I don't think OP's the jerk for what happened here. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another hard-hitting Am I the Jerk Here story, check out that video on the left. Or, if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.